We're at our house in California's gold country, near the old gold mining town of Fairplay. We're going to go for a walk on the trail which runs around the 8 acres of land that we have here. We're starting out at the upper part of our land, which means that we are approximately 3,000 feet above sea level. We're going in an easterly direction, and if we were to continue for quite a few miles we would end up at the crest of the Sierra Nevada mountains at about 12,000 feet. The land was originally extremely overgrown, but over the last particularly 15 years or so we've spent a lot of time and energy and had a lot of help from friends in clearing much of the undergrowth and leaving the larger trees and some of the bushes. This is a buckbrush. It's in its spring blossom. We've removed hundreds and hundreds of these. They're the most infuriatingly tangled, scratchy bushes to deal with, and quite impenetrable in the form of thickets. We're approaching the easterly edge of our land here, and ahead you can see some of the typical thickets of bushes and trees that we faced when we first started to clear this land, and for which we are grateful to have had help from some very hard-working friends. Now we're approaching one of the more interesting features on our land. In fact, something that we didn't even know existed for many years after we had thought we had explored the land, and then we discovered the hidden outcrop of granite, which we've called the grinding rock. And here it is. On the right you can see the stump of a large oak tree which used to lean over the rock, and in the center, the flattish part, is where some of the Miwok Indians who used to live in this area used to grind acorns into a sort of a flour. And here is where the stone mortars were. I put some acorns in them, 3 of them, to make them more easily seen. However, these are very small. There are some others not very far away that are several times as large and were obviously used much more often. And unfortunately the whole Miwok Indian civilization and way of life collapsed after 1849, when thousands and thousands of prospectors invaded their land without so much as a by your leave. Here's a look at the grinding rock from underneath. It's quite an imposing granite outcrop. Also noteworthy for the fact that in some of those crevices there's at least one family of skunks that live, and we've seen sometimes the young ones playing outside, although they are largely nocturnal. Anyway, it's not a good idea to go poking around in those holes. Now we've come back to the main trail, and from here it starts to descend to the lower part of our land. We're passing more rocky outcrops which run right through our land, dividing it into two. None of them, however, is as spectacular as the one with the grinding rock. Now we're approaching the first of two creeks which run in our property. This is a small one which we named Peters Creek, and it only runs for a few months each year depending on the rainfall. However, it's in a steep hollow, so we have put two bridges across it to help us walk over. Just a very small flow of water, not enough to make any noise. And just over the second bridge on Peters Creek, we can see the remains of the first of three unwelcome gifts which nature gave to us this winter. And this is a very large pine tree which fell down on the 4th of January right across the trail here and made a fearful mess. It brought down at least two other trees with it, and the area was just a tangle of broken branches and vegetation. Fortunately, we had some much appreciated help from some friends in helping us clear it. In fact, it certainly would not have been possible to clear it without their help. Interestingly enough, the tree actually broke off at the base, and it's hard to imagine the force of the wind which would have managed to do that to this apparently healthy tree. It was in this group of trees, and yet this was the one that blew down. Now we're at a fork in the trail. The fork to the left leads down to the main creek, and the fork to the right is actually the original trail we built when we didn't think it would be possible to get much closer to the creek. So we'll just walk along this one for a few moments.